Namaskar, I'm Devdip Purkayastha from the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay. Welcome to this live session number 2 for this course, Business Fundamentals for Entrepreneurs. In this course, I have tried to help you do a few things, which I'll cover in a while. And in this session, in this particular session, I will recap the course. Some questions have come up, which I will try and answer. And there are some additional requests for help, which I'll also try and provide. So let me just start with the course background, and I'll give you, as I go along, some updates. I think the course background is that the world is changing. Business is changing. The way we do business is changing. Technology is changing a lot. Geopolitics is changing. What does it mean for companies and employment? What it means for companies is that companies have to do businesses in a different way, especially, as you know from the newspaper, the world order in terms of tariffs, globalization of trade, globalization of supply chain are all going to change. AI is coming in a big way. And therefore, what it means is that employees need to reskill and continuously upskill. And to quote from a global think tank, which is called World Economic Forum, which publishes job reports, I'm just going to quote a couple of examples. So for the 2020 job report, which predicted job outlook for 2025, which is this year. So 5 years back, the World Economic Forum says that 50% of all the employees will need reskilling or upskilling or different skilling versus 5 years back. Now, they've also published the 2025 job report. There's a lot of interesting points there, which all of you should read to plan your careers. And the link is there, so you can pause the video here, or you can do an internet search and go to this website called WE Forum, worldeconomicforum.org. I'm just going to quote you one data point. 59% will need training by 2030. This is existing employees. Now, students who are watching this, students who have studied in a certain way, which was good for the last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you need to be aware that what you have studied in college, whichever subject you are in, engineering, arts, science, commerce, chartered accountancy, medicine, whatever, if you are choosing a corporate career, if you are choosing a business career, you have to be aware that you need new skills. And you can look at some of the data that have extracted from the report and put it on the screen. Therefore, what I've tried to do in this course all along is to give you a broad-based idea of business. It's like a micro MBA course. I will cover and remind you of the course content, but hopefully it will help you prepare for your future career for students and for your current career for professionals. Again, remember that what I've tried to do through this micro MBA course is to help you make informed career choices, help you be ready for higher corporate roles, become future ready, be ready for 2030, 2035, so that you're not laid off because you don't have the skills. And if you are an entrepreneur, and provide you a business perspective to start your own business. Now, to remind you, we have had skilling videos. They are my videos. So we've got 25 of my lecture videos. They're also industry expert videos. There were 10. And based on a specific request, which I'll share in a while, we have added on a very interesting, insightful industry expert. We'll just release it after my live session. There are also lots of practice assignments. They're all in the NPTEL format, and the written test is coming up in a few days' time. So what's the written test? Many of you have asked, what is the criteria to get a certificate? It's there on the website. You can go to the NPTEL website and look it up. I've also put an extract on the screen. You can pause the video here and look at the screen. So you have to do 8 of the 12 assignments, or at least the 8 best assignments that you do will be considered for your final score. The weightage for your best 8 assignments will be 25%, which means if you do 12 assignments, your best 8 will be counted. If you do only 8, all the 8 will be counted. If you do less than 8, only that will be counted. Okay? And 25% weightage is for that. So the final score for you to get a certificate and what kind of certificate will depend on your written test that's coming up, as well as your average assignment score. And there's a formula which is there on the screen. You will get information from NPTEL team. If you have doubts, you can raise it on the discussion forum. I'm going to remind you now about the course content so that you will remember what you learned. You learned a lot. You should be very proud of what you learned. This is a very complex course. It's a very long course. And unlike a typical physics or chemistry or mathematical course, this actually combines various domains. It combines marketing and operations, finance and HR, leadership and ESG, social venture and technology ventures. So it's a very complex course. And those of you who have completed the course, you should be very proud of yourself because it's a difficult course. And I hope you'll just do that little bit extra in the last few days to get the best certificate and pass with flying colors. Again, to remind you, so that revision for you becomes easy, in the first 4 weeks, I started with what is business, basics of company, and structures. We talked about vision, mission, goals, strategy, and culture of a company, which is very important. Even if you're a faculty or a department head or an institute head, these are important for your department, for your institute. If you're an employee, it's important for your organization, your company, and even for your team that you lead or you're a member of. Then I got into the functional aspects, how to innovate. Okay, if you're a brand manager, R&D manager, entrepreneur, this is very important. And then how do you manufacture to scale? Millions of pieces, billions of pieces, crores of biscuits, smartphones, televisions, refrigerators, etc. How do you manufacture? What are the quality standards? Business is all about money. So we talked a lot about finance and accounting, so you don't go bankrupt, and you can keep track of whether you're making profits, losses, how to fix your business, how to control your business. We talked all of that. All of you, as you progress in your career, will become leaders. You will first lead with maybe a small team, then a bigger team, then a department, then a division, then a company, maybe then a corporation. All of you should try to be a leader. And therefore, I covered about leadership and human resources. Then we talked about responsible businesses. How does a responsible business take care of environment, society, and make sure that you're well governed. That's in the first 4 weeks. In the next 4 weeks, I talked about external aspects, the market. How do you win in the market? How do you identify customers and customer segments and win with customers so your customers are happy with you and give you their business? How to do marketing? What is marketing? What are the aspects of marketing? How to create value, deliver value, capture value? And then we talked about advertising and promotion and communication. We then talked about sales, selling B2B, business to business, selling B2C. We talked about sales channels and distribution networks. Very importantly, then we talked about customer service, because you cannot just sell and forget. And remember, all of these functions can be good career options for you. We talked about supply chain and logistics. Very important. Again, because it can be a whole career for you. There are very big, very famous, very nice employee-preferred supply chain companies like DHL, FedEx, UPS, Blue Dart, etc. And they can all be good career options for you. In the last 4 weeks, we talked about business risk, because all businesses have risk. Even you have risk in your personal lives or in your club or in your career. How to manage those risks, how to become aware and manage those risks. Then you talked about information and how to manage information, how to use information to make decisions like big data, data analytics, etc. Then you slowly got into the startup side, business models. What are different kinds of business models? I talked a lot about social business, which is very important. Then we talked about how do you start up a technology venture, or how do you start up a social venture. Then we had a business case discussion. I wrapped up the course, and then I had offered you a bonus module about the 4 E's of success. And then to support my own lectures, there were about 10 expert sessions. These range from Silicon Valley entrepreneurs to senior McKinsey people or senior marketing people, senior academicians, young entrepreneurs. There are all kinds of guest lectures, which you will find on the course content. Now, based on your feedback, and based on your question, there are some updates. And there are some updates because business changes. Business is dynamic. Laws change, environment change. And I covered this about business environment. So I'm going to talk about a few changes. I'm going to talk about an additional guest session because there was some requests, and I'll talk about that. And we'll talk about how we reopened some workshop based on your request. First, there have been some changes in the legal environment because of the budget. The budget 25-26, which came into being or came into force in 1st April 2025, made some important changes with respect to MSME. I talked about MSME in one of my lectures. So in MSMEs, there have been redefinitions, some changes in definition from what I talked in my lecture. So you can read more about it if you go to the press release by the Government of India. The link is there. You can pause the video and look up the link, or you can go to the Ministry of MSME, or you can Google search MSME changes in definition 25-26 budget. So the definitions of micro, small, medium has changed. And I will pause here for a minute so that you can see what is the current versus revised. The revised is the new one, effective 1st April. Current is what was existing before the budget, which means till 31st of March this year. And I had shared the current but now there are new ones. So take a minute to have a look. With the budget, MSME, there also have been some measures by the government to help MSMEs. And I've listed some of them. You can look it up in the ministry website, or you can Google search it. Enhanced credit availability. Remember, entrepreneurs start small. They're called startups, but startups are also a form of micro entrepreneurship. So all of you should be aware of MSME measures, definitions, schemes, as well as startups, specific to startups. But not all micro enterprises or businesses will be startups. So there are two sets of laws and two sets of government support. You should look up both. Now I'm talking about MSME. So the government has announced enhanced credit availability. Look it up. Credit cards for micro entrepreneurs. Additional support for startups and first-time entrepreneurs. There is greater focus on labor-intensive sectors, not just the highly automated, digitized sectors, because there the employment may be very small because it's all digital, but maybe where there is labor and therefore there is need for employment. For example, delivery services or logistics, etc. And of course, there's support for manufacturing and clean tech, because for us, for India as a country to be Atmanirbhar, we need more manufacturing within India so that we don't have to import. And we've got world-class companies in India making world-class products, which we can use as Indians and which we can export out of India to other countries. And then, of course, clean tech, because as I said in my ESG lecture, it's very important that we talk about a clean planet, a green planet. So that's an update on the lecture module. Now, I received feedback. Thank you for those who have given me feedback that they would like to have a live session, expert session on social entrepreneurship, and also on leadership. So this was a request, and what I've done is I have tried to fulfill this request by inviting for this course a very illustrious leader. I'll share with you his details in a while. But what is amazing is that after his government career, after he retired from a government career, he went and founded an amazing social venture. And I requested him to come and share his insights. And that module is now available. And the person who I have invited, and he has kindly come, recorded his life's journey, his learnings about leadership, his advice to all of you who are watching. And his name, as you can say, in the earlier slide was Mr. Shivanandan, Mr. Dhanush Kodi Shivanandan. And he's a retired IPS officer, very senior, illustrious IPS officer. He retired as the Director General of Police for Maharashtra, commanding almost 2.5 lakh strong police force. He was the police commissioner of Mumbai and various other places. But what's amazing is the social venture that he founded. And I request all of you to watch the module, which will be released soon. Tomorrow, day after, we'll release it. It will be there on the web page, and you can look it up yourself. He has also shared his tips on leadership, responsible leadership, because he developed one set of leadership when he was commanding a very large police force with lakhs of police. But when he moved to social venture, okay, he had a far less structured, much smaller organization which required a different kind of leadership. And the module is all about his social venture. The social venture is Roti Bank. And basically, it talks of how Roti Bank provides rotis for non-Hindi speaking people. Rotis means something, a bread. And this organization provides meals to the needy. And it started before COVID. And through COVID, it provides meals to a lot of people who lost their jobs, who got stuck at home because of COVID, etc. Today, it provides food to underprivileged. It provides meals to school children and so on. And you can go to the website, and the website, the link is there, so you can pause the video and follow the link, or you can do a Google search for Roti Bank Foundation. And as you can see here, the Roti Bank Foundation till date has provided 20 million plus meals, 2 crore plus meals through the COVID period. And then after COVID, to underprivileged and children and schools who, so I encourage you to watch these modules to understand how you, whatever be the age, can become a more responsible social leader, not just a leader. Of course, all of you will be leaders. You'll be leading in arts or science or commerce or business or engineering or medicine, whatever. All of you will be leaders. You will be academic leaders, a civil services leader, an IS, IPS, IFS leader. But this will be a good model for you to watch how to become socially responsible leader and do work for millions, crores of people who need that support. So this is a new module. We have released it, or we'll release it in the next 1 or 2 days' time. It's ready because of your request. And thank you for sending in your request. We have had one more round of requests. In my last NPTEL live session, I was asked the question, after the course, what do you do? And I suggested at that time that you need both knowledge and skills. They're very different. Knowledge is theoretical, which you learn, you understand, you study, you give exams, and so on. The NPTEL course gives you the knowledge. My course gives you a micro MBA knowledge across all aspects of business, but it's still knowledge. To complement that knowledge, you need to build skills. You need different kinds of skills. So that knowledge and skill goes hand in hand. And this is the NPTEL Plus for workshops. I have launched 3 NPTEL Plus workshops on skilling. And I'll show you what we have done. There was some interest. We got some feedback. Some of the workshops were closed because unlike NPTEL, which doesn't actually have a cap. So in this course, I've got 10,400 approximately students, but in NPTEL Plus workshop, in skilling, you cannot have 1,000 or 10,000 learners. So they are restricted. NPTEL Plus workshops are restricted. And after I had announced, we realized that some of the workshops had closed. So we reopened those workshops, limited number of seats. The limited number of seats in the NPTEL Plus workshop for students of this course. What are those workshops? Okay, and where do you find them? You can go to the NPTEL Plus platform. Just research on NPTEL Plus. It's run by NPTEL. It's the same format, same platform, slightly different. Run by IIT Bombay faculty or IISc. You can see the list there. But as I said, the objective here is more about hands-on experiences. So my first workshop is about grow yourself. How do you plan your career? You have studied, you've got a degree, you've got a job, some of you. Some of you are already professionals. Some of you are faculty. Some of you are entrepreneurs, want to be entrepreneurs. But how to grow yourself? If most of you are in the age bracket of maybe 20 to 25, you have another 50 or 60 or 70 years ahead of you. How do you continuously grow? So the focus of this workshop is a series of insights, tips, exercises, assessment tools, personal development tools on how to grow yourself. How to make sure that over the next 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, you grow yourself. So that's the first workshop. It had closed. We have reopened a limited number of seats. We've just reopened it today. As you can see, the last date was 15 March. It was out of stock, but based on your request, we have opened about 100 seats today. So first come, first serve. There is a small fee. Okay, you can enroll. The second workshop, which is open but will close soon, again, limited number of seats, is about grow your team. How to grow your team? Some of you may have a team today because you are a working professional having a small team in a company. You may be a department head. You may be a faculty and creating a lab team, a research team. You may be a student heading a culture club or an entrepreneurial club or e-cell, but you're still a leader and you have to grow your team. You have to lead your team. So whether you're a student leading e-cell or a culture fest or a photography club or leading a cricket team or a sports team, or if you are a working professional leading a professional team, or if you're a faculty leading a research team, a lab team, a department, or an institute. How do you grow your team? This is not about knowledge. This is about a lot of self-assessment, practice, pointers, tips, etc. So the second workshop, which is still open, I think there are a few, maybe 20 or 30 seats still left. Okay. If you're interested, you can enroll on the, and these are very short workshops. All these workshops are short, unlike the NPTEL course. The NPTEL course is 12 weeks, is very, very time intensive. But in this workshop, the lecture sessions, etc., the self-assessment, etc., is only about few hours. But you learn for a few hours what you practice for the rest of your life. Because these are workshops. This is skills development. And these skills you can grow over the rest of your lives. So the workshop content, the videos, etc., maybe a few hours, but your practice can be lifelong, over years, decades. The third workshop is about grow your communication. Again, limited seats will close in 10th May. Okay, there are very few seats left. And this is about how do you communicate? Because it's not enough for you to have a knowledge. It's not enough for you to just speak or write. Ultimately, whoever you're speaking to, whoever is a listener, whoever you're writing to, whoever is the recipient of your email or social media communication, or your follower, have to understand what you are saying, have to agree to what you are saying, and have to do what you are asking them to do. For that, you need communication, verbal communication, but also non-verbal, because a lot of communication is not just about what you say, it's how you say it, your posture, your body language. So verbal and non-verbal. This workshop I've also covered written, how to write powerfully in emails or blogs or social media, etc. And then there's a specific module on social media and how to create powerful digital personas with a large follower base, respectable follower who respect you, okay, on LinkedIn or Insta or Facebook, etc., TikTok, whatever. So verbal, non-verbal. Then written, social media. And then I've covered about public speaking. Many of you will have to speak in public sooner or later. You're probably speaking today itself. When you're making a class presentation or pitching your startup or talking to your clubs, or if you're a faculty, always you're lecturing. Every day you're probably lecturing. Okay? If you are a professional, you're probably talking to your team, sometimes to industry, and you're talking to 50 people, 100 people, 1,000 people. How do you talk to them? So public speaking, and the last module is on private influencing. Well, in a smaller group, 1:1, you and your boss, you and your subordinate, you and your mentor, or you and your mentee, you and your guide, you and your professor, or you as a professor with your student. How do you persuade in smaller groups? So public speaking and persuasive influencing. So based on request, some of these workshops which had got closed because the seats were all full, we have reopened it. Right now, there are limited number of seats in all of these, some only for NPTEL, who may be interested. So this is again at your request. Thank you for making that request. Now, I've been getting questions, and one of the questions I'm getting is from faculty in terms of startup support. Is there any, if I have to start my business, or if I have to teach startup, if I have to develop a startup course, if I have to develop a startup curriculum, how do I start? So just so you know, I have, based on 30 years of my corporate experience and almost 10 years in startup ecosystem and IT Bombay School of Entrepreneurship, I have written a case book, and this case book gives you 12 cases which you can use for you to learn. So if you're a student, you can go through this case book, which is like a workbook, okay? And as a student, you can learn how to start up. As a faculty, you can learn how to start up. As an entrepreneur, you can learn how to start up because you'll get better insights on typical startup questions. And if you're a faculty who wants to start a course, teach your students, you can also use these cases. These are not Harvard cases because some of these foreign cases or Ivy cases, these are not at that level, but those cases are also very expensive. And if I get a request from NPTEL and some of the faculty, I'll be happy to send out a few free copies of these books. These books are nominally priced almost at the price of Xeroxing, okay? And each case is, per case price will be maybe about 20 or 30 rupees. This book has got 12 cases, and it starts with the basics of, can entrepreneurship be taught? As a faculty, can you teach entrepreneurship? Or as an entrepreneurial student, can I learn entrepreneurship? Or entrepreneurs are only born? Is Mr. Ambani born? Is Mr. Adani born? Is Mr. Steve Jobs born? Is Mr. Ratan Tata born? Or can I learn to be an entrepreneur? Then there are questions on how do I get my customer? Is my product ready? How do I advertise? So all of these cases are there. So these cases complement the knowledge that you get from my course. If there's enough interest in my last live session, I have a third live session. I can cover some of these cases, and the faculty who are interested, I can send out some free copies. We now get into question and answer. We've been getting some questions. Some of the questions have come to me before, so you don't see them on the chat. And some of the questions have come afterwards in the chat, okay? Let me start with the question I have received. So there have been a lot of questions about getting into IT Bombay School of Management. This is a micro MBA course. And the question is, how do you get into IT Bombay School of Management? So I've got 3 points. First, the IT Bombay School of Management is similar to the IIMs, Indian Institute of Management, like I'm A, I'm C, I'm Lucknow, I'm Bangalore, etc. They're also similar to SP Jain School of Management or NMIMS or many other schools. Each of these schools have their own admission process. Many of them take common admission test, which is CAT, run by the ministry. And some take their own admission test. And then there are interviews. So my counsel to you would be, don't think about only getting into IIT Bombay School of Management. Think about targeting the IIMs, targeting the schools of management at the IITs. Many IITs have schools of management. IIT Kharagpur has, IIT Bombay has, many other schools has. There are also independent management schools across India. And you can do a search on top management schools. So my course, micro MBA course, is to ready you for MBA admission and for you to also understand what exactly is management. You may choose after that to say, I don't want to be a manager. I want to be a scientist. I want to just focus on technology. I want to be an entrepreneur. So my micro MBA course, this course should have given you the perspective and some basic understanding if you want to become a corporate employee and build a corporate career. Specific to IIT Bombay admissions, please look up IIT Bombay School of Management. The admission criteria is there. I've also received a question about, can I do a IIT Bombay PhD? How do I get into a PhD program in IIT Bombay or IIT Bombay School of Entrepreneurship? There are very specific criteria. IIT Bombay has specific criteria and a specific process, as do all the IITs. IIT Kharagpur also has a School of Entrepreneurship. They also run PhD programs, IDDP, MTechs, and so on. We also run PhD. We are soon going to launch, which we meaning IIT Bombay School of Entrepreneurship, we're soon going to launch an online full degree program on Masters of Engineering and Innovation Entrepreneurship. My counsel would be go to the IIT Bombay admission portal or academic homepage and look up the admission criteria for PhD or any of the schools, including our school, the Desai City School of Entrepreneurship, where I'm a full-time faculty. Okay, so go to the portal and look it up. And for that, I wish you all the best. Now, there are some other questions. Which types of question will come? Okay, so it will be a mix of MCQ, which means multiple choice or multiple selection. There will be questions which will test your recall. Many of these questions you may have done as part of your earlier assignments, and some of the questions will test your understanding. It will be closed book. It will be on the computer. You'll not need pen and paper. You will not need a calculator. However, I'm just giving you this verbally. NPTEL will give you the detailed instructions about the exam. So look out for greater information from the NPTEL team in terms of not only types of question, duration of question, timing of question, which is the date, because there are 2 slots. So which is the date and time, what is the venue, and what do you need to prepare with? Okay, so you have asked the question about business preparation. Okay, look at my weeks 4 to 9 modules, which are some of the last modules. How to start a technology venture. I've covered startups in brief in 2 modules, how to start a technology venture and how to start a social venture. Also types of companies and so on. Okay, if I will check with if there's enough demand, if there are a lot of other people who have demand, I'm also happy to share my startup casebook. And in my next live session, if enough of you are interested, I can talk about methodology of starting up. I can recap some of my modules and give you some tips. Yeah, so there's a question on unsold items. See, this is not just about Procter & Gamble. The question is about P&G. This is true for all domains, because you may have unsold items by the retailer, and what will happen is that if you look across domains, if you look at pharmaceuticals or food products, all of them have an expiry, okay, time. So a medicine will expire, a food product will expire. So whether it's Unilever, jam, Kisan jam, or Britannia biscuit, or a Nestle food item, or medicines from any company, they expire. And typically the retailer has to give back the expired products to the distributor, who then gives it back or destroys it. So expired products are typically destroyed. And the company and the distributor and the retailer have very specific agreements on what to do with expired products. Now, look at other industries. So you also have things like fashion. A lot of time, fashion, there may be excess product for fashion. Maybe some designs are excess. Some designs have sold, some are in excess. This may be true for any brand, or Levi's or Wrangler, or any of the West Side brands or Pantaloon brands. There may always be unsold inventory. It may be some sizes have sold, some sizes have not sold. Some colors have sold, some colors have not sold. Some designs have sold, others have not sold. Some designs have become obsolete. Okay. So what do you do? So again, the retailer will then work with the company. In fashion, the retailer may be directly working with the company, because these may be large chain stores. Okay. And they will have an agreement to what to do with that excess inventory. Okay. Because otherwise, the money, the cash, and the inventory of the retailer is blocked. Look at other domains like technology domains. Okay. Look at smartphones. Many of the smartphone manufacturers, be it Samsung, be it Apple, be it Vivo, Oppo, whoever, they're always bringing out new models. And as soon as a new model comes out, what will happen is that 2 generations back, so let's say if you've got model 2025, okay? So there's a 2025 model of a smartphone. So immediately, the prices for 2024 and 2023 may come down, because the company wants to sell the 2025 model. Okay, there's a new model. However, there may also be stocks of 2019, 2020, 21, 20, which then nobody will buy. Okay, those are unsold stock. And therefore, the electronic retailers have to work back with the distributors and work with the company, whoever that company is, on agreements to get rid of the old stock, unsellable stock, and free up the cash or the inventory that's held up. So I broadened my answer to not just one company called Procter & Gamble. I broadened the answer to various companies, various domains, various categories. Okay, so I have covered some of the return process. There's a follow-up question, I guess, from an industry professional in terms of what is the actual turnover. So that's a complicated question, but there are guidelines. There are GAAP guidelines, generally acceptable accounting procedures, okay? There are guidelines, accounting guidelines on how to recognize revenue. I've covered a little bit of that in my finance module in the first 4 weeks, finance and accounting module. So in short and in brief, okay, the guidelines on revenue recognition. So when can you recognize a revenue? Okay, for example, if a company just moves the inventory to a distributor or a direct to a retailer, it may not be revenue. It's just a goods movement. Okay. So when does the sale actually happen? When can I actually recognize that I have got this much of revenue? And they're clearly acceptable guidelines, which means then when the invoice is raised, not just the goods movement, okay, and maybe when the goods are acknowledged to have been received. And it may have something to do with payment, it may not have something to do with payment. Now the question is, What happens if stocks are taken back? Again, there's accounting guidelines. This will probably come under write-offs, where there are guidelines for booking those losses or due to write-offs, spoiled products, unsold products, perished products, etc. Who bears the loss? It depends on the agreement between the company, the distributor, and the retailer. So there is no one size fit all. All companies will have their own agreements with their distributors and retailers, but the accounting itself have to comply with accounting standards, whether the way the company accounts or the distributor accounts or the retailer accounts. Um, um, so there's a request. Thank you, Dr. Jubi, for making this request. Making an online session, offering an online session for your students is usually very difficult because my time, like yours, I'm sure your schedule is packed. I'm sure all the faculty here have got packed schedules, as do working professional and students. But we can have an offline discussion as to what is it that you have in mind. But thank you for asking. How to have that startup case book? If there is interest, if there's enough interest, okay, and especially for faculty, okay, I can cover the case book itself in more detail in the next live session, which will be announced shortly. And there's enough detail that I can also talk about how to get access to it. What are the most important financial principles a new entrepreneur business? Yeah, I think there's nothing called the most, okay? And it changes over time, because if you don't have revenues, your startup has not even started. Because you may take a lot of losses because you're developing a product, or you can later on, under accounting standards, you can treat it as some version of capital expense. So there are accounting guidelines, but you need to have revenues. So I think without revenues, no business will sustain in the long term. Because the question is, how does it remain sustainable in the long term? So first of all, you need to have revenues. Someone needs to buy your product, okay? Second thing is, you need to have profits. Now, you can survive for a while in the early stages when you don't have profits, or there may be periods when you don't have profits, okay? But in the long term, which is a question that how do you remain sustainable in the long term, you have to be profitable, because you cannot take losses for the entirety of the life cycle. And above all, the third thing that you have to be very, very careful about once the business stabilizes is your cash flows. Because if you don't have a cash flow, then the business is broke. You cannot pay your suppliers, you cannot buy raw material, you cannot pay your employees, and so on and so forth, and your business will come to a halt. So I think it's a good question in terms of, so the entrepreneurial role is actually quite difficult, because you have to balance a lot of things. You have to balance your customer, so get the revenues. You have to balance your employees, your suppliers, your production systems, your engineers, so you can create products and deliver them. You need to juggle your finances so they don't run out of cash, because if you run out of cash, the business will stop. So entrepreneurship is actually quite challenging, and therefore you need to build skills. So knowing only finance, only arts, only commerce, only technology is not going to be enough. And also, it's just that no one person may be an expert in all aspects of entrepreneurship. So someone may be good at technology, but he needs to partner with someone who's good in finance. But both of them have to probably ally and have a co-founder who's good in marketing and sales. So typically, You need those three broad sets of skills: technology, marketing and sales, and finance. And then over time, as your organization grows, then you have to have other kinds of departments like HR, people management. I'll just wait for a minute and see if there are any more questions. If there are no more questions, then we are kind of ready to wind up this session. Looks like there are no other questions, but we will have one more session. Depending on interest, I can cover the startup cases and talk more about it. Please keep sending a question. If you have doubts, please put them on the discussion forum. Thank you all for participating in my course. Thank you all for being in the live session. I know that this is a working day, so this live session will also be posted on YouTube. So those of you who have not been able to attend live, kindly visit the YouTube link and watch this. And I wish you the very best in your careers. And I wish you the very best for this course and the written test. Thank you. Namaskar.